Thank God the Beatles exist because I could not write these songs. Yesterday, the latest movie from director Danny Boyle tells the story of the Beatles never existing, except for one person. He wakes up after getting hit by a truck and discovers that the Fab Four is no more. Now, being a singer-songwriter himself, he decides to then write every Beatles song he can remember. Lyrics, music, everything, and then slowly finds himself becoming the greatest singer-songwriter that has ever existed. We're going to keep this review pretty spoiler-free, other than just basic plot details that you have already seen in the trailer, so don't worry, stick around and I'll tell you my thoughts on this film. First off, it's hard to talk about this film without talking about the Beatles, because the Beatles is one of my favorite bands of all time, and so I'm going to show a lot of bias towards this film. And I do really think that if you are a Beatles fan, you are going to love this movie, because it is filled with references, songs, all sorts of things related to the Beatles. Outside of that, now, there are some issues with this film, but I still think it's a fun time, even if you aren't the biggest Beatles fan. So first off, this cast is great. From the main characters to a lot of the side characters, even the cameos that are within this. Let me just say, Ed Sheeran has a lot more to do in this movie than it shows in the trailer. It's all good. The acting is great. The script is okay. Now, I think the biggest issue with this movie is that it plays almost too much into the musical fantasy, and not enough realism is portrayed in it. So for a lot of people, that's going to be okay. You're just looking for a good summer flick with some good Beatles music. That's great. That's this film. If you're looking for an in-depth script of the consequences if the Beatles didn't actually exist, then you might not find that here. But ultimately, the main protagonist in this film finds himself on this path of success and has to kind of decide, is this worth to give up everything that he loves for the path of success, or should he give that up and go back to the people that were there for him before he had all this? So in the end, this isn't really a Beatles movie. If anything, this is actually more of a rom-com filled with Beatles references. And again, for me, I love that. I'm a big fan of rom-coms. I'm a big fan of the Beatles. Mix the two together more often. But when you reach the end of this movie and you realize it's a love story, I think a lot of people might be disappointed about that. The other thing to note while watching this movie is a lot of the questions that you have about the plot that you saw from the trailer may or may not get answered within the film. Now, they introduce a lot of interesting thoughts, and I'll give a brief example, but the Beatles are not the only thing that are missing from existence that this character can remember. Now, why that is, or why it is even the Beatles or these other things that suddenly disappear, you don't get much of an explanation. And so again, this isn't a movie trying to give a great script for why these things don't exist or to say anything specifically interesting about the Beatles. It's more so just a plot device to drive this romance between him and the other love interest. And so at the end of the day, I still think it's a great movie. Probably going to be one of my favorites of the year. It's always hard to tell mid-year, especially because most of the great movies come out second half of the year. If you are looking for a great summer movie full of music, maybe a little less graphic and vulgar than Rocketman, which is also a really great movie, and this movie is definitely for you. You need to see it in theaters? Probably not. It's probably also just as good on your own TV. But hey, I'm always looking for a reason to bring the Beatles back into public conversation. So that's yesterday. What did you think? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you next time.